All right. So good morning. So this week's Haftorah is the Haftorah for, really we read this Haftorah potentially 3 times a year. You read the Haftorah this time of year, you read the previous part of this Haftorah, which we'll read for our Haftorah of Kiseitse, and all of this Haftorah is unified in one for Parashat Noach. But this week, our Haftorah is just the end of the Parashat Noach, which is, so it begins in Yeshayahu, in Isaiah 54, verse 11, and it continues for a few verses. It's a shorter one. Last week was like a really long one. This week was a short one. It continues until the fifth verse of the next chapter, chapter 55. So this is the Haftorah Anya Sorah. And we've actually spent, because we read it essentially 3 times a year, we've spent time talking about different parts. So I figured today we're going to focus on the last part, the last 5 verses that begins the new section. But we'll do a brief overview in general of what's happening here. The Haftorah here is like again a masterful composition. Yeshayahu is very rhetorically gifted. Even just the opening, and we've spent a lot of time in the past talking about this. There's a lot of water imagery in the first part of this chapter, which is why it's the Haftorah for Noach. And then Anya Sorah is a wonderful pun. If you just listen to it, right, the undiscerning ear will hear like an onia, which is a boat, and Sorah is like
tempest toss.
Tempest toss. Thank you. Like a tempest, like you have for in Yonah, right? It's the ocean is so'er. It's a Sarah. It's not really quite a hurricane. It's a tempest. That's the best word for it. But really, what it means is something else. Anya is it actually means like oni, afflicted, unhappy, uncomfortable. So it's a pun. It's a play on words here. You imagine there's all this water imagery in the verses before it, which was not part of our Haftorah, as part of the vision. We have Mei Noach, the floods of Noach, Mabul al Aretz, the flood on the land. And then you have again Onia Sorah, Anya Sorah. If it would be with Onia, it would mean a boat. It would be perfect. So you have this image of the boat, but then when you listen carefully, it's like the person. Like I imagine it's almost like the Jewish people as the boat, storm tossed in the water, squashing around among the waves. It's a very powerful image, and it represents, again, this dialogue between God and the Jewish people and back and forth, which is what all the Shivim Nechemtas are all about, is sort of God trying to comfort or send people to comfort the Jewish people. And on the flip side, the Jewish people refusing to be comforted or asking questions, still being storm-tossed and all of that. We'll just continue on for 2 more verses because it's they're just so special. I mean, they're all special, but these I just want to highlight. V'samti kad kod shimshotayach. I will make your battlements, your walls and the different borders will be like rubies. B'sharayach le'avnei echtach, and your gates like precious stones. Chol gvulayach. And all of all of the boundaries of your borders will be avnei chayfetz, will be glamorous gems of desire, gems that you want, that are desirable. And this image of the Kadkod is actually a very powerful image in that it represents, and we'll get on some of the different images of the precious stones that are used here. You have it again. The Haftorah is sort of adjoined to the previous part, where you have other gems sort of mentioned or put in. But over here, Anya Sorah, the end part over here, you have Hurach, which are which is a potentially like an emerald or something like that. You have Sapirim, you have the sapphires, you have the different gems here, and all of them have not just a beautiful metaphor that when redemption comes, things will be built bigger, that these things that typically are your defenses, your battlements, your gates, your borders, which are ugly and functional pieces that represent the state of attack, of threat, of danger, will now become, totally redundant and therefore be able to be bedazzled with all of these different gems. The particular gems that we quote here have significance in Torah. So you have the emerald, which is in verse 11, is the gem of Yehudah. You have the sapphire, which is the gem of Yisachar. Again, sort of the two different competing worlds out there of the. Do you have a question?
No, did you want to ask?
I'm brewing one. Go ahead.
All right. You have two different worlds. You have Leah and Yehudah, the disunity between the Leah and, northern tribe and southern tribes, the disunity that exists there. And then also you have Hadkod, which is Yosef, is the Shoham, which is Yosef. And you have the different, the Malbim thinks that each of these different ones represent different stones. You have Yosef represented here, you have Levi represented here, and all of these sort of represent the fractions and the fissures within the Jewish people, which bring about the destruction that they are facing. And the redemption is, we're going to take all of their stones, and they're all going to have a role, and they're all going to have their own spot. It's not like they're all crushed together, but they're all bedazzling these areas together and shining and decorating. And the decoration isn't just the metaphoric rubies and gems and various other things, but it's the unity, right? There's a deeper idea to this metaphor, which is the unity that they represent, right? And that is a large component of this vision here, particularly for the Jew who is hearing this, who recognizes that some of these gems represent are almost like the crown jewels of different tribes. That it's a call to them to recognize it's not just that they're going to sit there and they're going to be beautiful, but we're going to have, imagine if you decorate Lavdil, you decorate a door with Yankees and Mets together, right? You bring the different together, right? So that's the same sort of idea that perhaps is cemented in this image. Obviously much more important, because in the end of the day, the Yankees and the Mets didn't exile each other over their hate for each other. The Jews did. And so that becomes the piece. And then just, again, verse 13, V'chol banayech lumudei Hashem, all of your children should be disciples of God, V'rav shalom banayech, and there should be great peace and happiness for all of your children. If you recall the famous rabbinic teaching, don't teach banayech ela bonayech, don't teach your children, but builders, that they build the world. And as you hear this verse, remember back to the earlier verse of Yeshayahu that we read before Tisha B'Av, right? And the curse of Chazon Yeshayahu. And what happens? You have banim mashchitim, your children that are destroyers, that they are evil, they're perverters. Right? And that is the inversion of this later image, or this is an inversion of that, right? We're redeeming that image. Your children are destroyers, now your children are builders. Your children bring about evil and perpetrate disharmony and attack. Here we have Rav Shalom Banayach, right? That there should be great peace and happiness with them. And that becomes a very powerful image of this line, which is resonant to our ears just 4 weeks ago of the Haftarah of Chazon Yeshayahu. With that, let's to chapter 55, verse 1. And we have over here a small section, which actually is the beginning, the introduction to the Haftarah, which we typically read on fast days. And we have a small section over here. We're going to talk about what these mean in a moment. All those who are thirsty, let's go to water. Basher ein lo kesef. And if you don't have money, lechu shivru cholu. Go and buy food and eat. How can you sort of buy food if you don't have money? You get water even if you don't have food. Go buy food if you go get water even if you don't have money. Go buy food. Presumably, if you don't have money, lechu shivru below kesef. Go buy it without money. Right? Obviously, how you're buying something without money. We'll come to that. Or below mechir yain v'chalav, and without a cost, without a price, like kama ze'oleh ma mechir. How much does this cost? Without a cost, wine. You'll buy wine. You'll purchase. You'll acquire wine and milk. Lama tishkalu kesef below lechem. Why are you spending money for no bread? Yigi achem below lesova. You're spending. You're either yagia. You're actually exerting yourself. You're pushing yourself to do something, but you're not being satisfied. You're not being filled. We're talking about food. You're not being filled, or it means actually your wages. Yagia kapecha, right? The money, the hard-earned money. Why are you spending that not being filled? Shemu, shamoa, Eli, listen to me. Ichlu tov, eat choice food, and enjoy the richness of your souls. What exactly this means is we'll get to in a moment also, but there's this contrast that we're providing here. Things will be free. You'll be able to get it even without money. Don't waste your money when you can get it properly from God. To turn your ears and listen and let your souls live. And you'll get a new covenant, everlasting, enduring promise to David, King David. You'll be a hem aid leumim natativ. I made him a leader, either him or a witness. All these people are that they'll become a prince and a leader of all the nations. Hein goy lo yada lo teda tikra. Nations who never knew you will come to you, will summon you, and nations that never knew about you will run to you. Laman Hashem al Kacha, because of God, because of Hashem your God, the Kadosh Yisrael Kiperach, for the holy of Israel who has adorned you, meaning your glory, your splendor become from God. So what's going on here? What's going on here? What is the images that are described in this latter half? So let's spend a few minutes unpacking it. Let's go back to the first verse. So Rashi understands that all of this is a mashal, is a metaphor for Torah. And it's directed at who? It's directed at the Jewish people. Mashal Torah, directed at the Jewish people. Oh, kol tzameh l'chula mayim. Who is thirsty for the word of God? Go to the water, go to the Torah. Basher ein lo kesef, even if you don't have money. L'chu shivru v'chelu, go and eat and go get and eat, and you'll get it without cost and without price. Yain v'chalav. 4 things we connect to Torah: water, wine, milk, and bread. This is what Rashi seems to say. And what's this below kesef? Right? What's going on here? Don't spend your money. Verse number 2. Lama tishkulu kesef below lechem. Why are you spending your money? Why are you chasing other forms of idolatry or chachma, acheret, chachma, nochriya, other forms of knowledge? You have the real deal. Don't waste your money for the cost. Don't waste your money below lachem. You're not getting anything for it. You're not going to get bread. Below the sova, you're not going to become satiated, right? Because there's nothing there. It's idolatry. It's false wisdom. So don't spend your money on that. Let's just go back according to Rashi. Then, what exactly is this? Shivru lechu shivru ve'echelu. What's this? Go buy bread and eat below kesef, without money. What's going on here? So Rashi, or I think it's really a Barbanel, who notes what this is referring to is the process of acquiring Torah. Don't think that Torah, even though it's free, is easy, right? You have to work for it. You have to work for it. Below kesef, below mechir means without a cost of financial cost. But you still have to try. You still have to be yagia kapecha. You have to work. You have to work, right? Shivru, he says, doesn't mean to buy. It means shvirat hanefesh, shvirat haguf. You have to break yourself. You have to fix yourself. You have to correct yourself. You have to work on yourself. All of these different things in order to eat, you have to try, right? And that's what the Barbanel describes over here. That this conversation here isn't that below. You might think she'ein vasher ein lo kasef. You don't have money that you could. It's just free. It's just there to take. It is free there to take, but it doesn't mean that it's easy. You have to try. You have to work. You have to develop it. You have to cultivate it. The Abarbanel even adds even further, why do we connect Torah and Lachem? Why is bread and Torah connected? So he gives three reasons. First, Allah, what we just said, Lechem, bread is the perfect example. Bread is a partnership between heaven and earth. The water has to grow the seeds. The water has to come and, you have to have the wheat, and the wheat has to grow. But you also have to invest energy and effort into it, right? So it's a perfect partnership. Torah comes from the heavens, it's given to us, and it's free to take. But you got to take it. You got to work on it. You got to develop it. To borrow the metaphor, you got to knead it. You got to work the dough. You got to, right? It doesn't mean it's possible. It's there for you. No one's stopping you, but it doesn't mean there's a difference between something being free and something being there for the taking. That's easy, right? I almost think about like there are all these times you drive by, someone has like a beautiful aron, a beautiful closet or armoire or something in front of their house. They're giving away for free. It's free, but you got to schlep it in your car. You got to drive it home. You got to get it into your house, right? It's free. It doesn't cost you money, but it's not free to take, right? It takes time. That's the first answer of Abarbanel. The second suggestion that Abarbanel says is just like lechem is a main food and a gateway to other foods, right? You eat bread with lots of different things. So too, Torah is a gateway to all different wisdom. Right? There's lots of wisdom in the world. And part of what he sees this as a metaphor against other wisdom. Don't spend your time, learning Greek philosophy and all these other things on their own. Torah is the gateway to all wisdom. That's the second point. The third point, which I think is a beautiful point also, is that lechem, bread, is also the great synthesizer. It's a unifier of all foods. You can eat bread with meat. You can eat bread with cheese. You can eat bread with fruit. You can eat bread with this. You can eat bread with that. Liel loves ketchup. Our youngest, she's 3.
Yeah.
So I have to remind her that like ketchup isn't good on everything, right? You're having ice cream. You don't want to put ketchup on your ice cream. I know you love ketchup, but you don't want to put it on your ice cream, right? The Torah is the food that you really can have, and it's true. Bread is the food that you can eat with anything, right? You can have a meal and you can have bread. There are people who put waffles or various other things, bread-like items with ice cream. And there are people who have hamburgers with bread, meaning it's all different types of food. It's very versatile. So it's a great synthesizer. The same thing is true with Torah. Torah takes all the different knowledges that we acquire in different areas of our life and all the experiences and helps us process them and bring them together. So he says that's the third reason why Torah is compared to lechem, to bread.
Also, it occurred to me that if you eat bread at a meal, then you have to say Birchat HaMazon, the whole Birchat HaMazon, as opposed to if you don't eat bread, you don't have to do that. So it's really it has a spiritual component too.
Right. And that's also, we see over here the sova, satiated, right? We have that component as well. The Radak understands this as very different, that this is after Gog and Magog, after the war of like the end of days. Hold on, I just want to pull it up. That this is really a broad mission, perhaps, and not just to Jews, to non-Jews as well, to everyone, to the whole world. Come, you recognize God, and you'll understand, and you'll learn, and that Torah is here for you. And before, I also wanted to mention, we have these three liquids. We have water, wine, and milk. So they represent different things, right? Some understand, I believe it's the Radak. Wine, water is, a basic staple. You can't live without water, just like you can't live without Torah. On the other hand, wine is sort of the champagne of life, right? And it makes you happy. Torah is also part of the joys of what we have. And then milk is what builds us as people from young age, right? Our mother's milk or regular milk, right? All of those things are what are the different stages of our development. And Torah accompanies us on all of them. I saw the Malbim writes beautifully that there's a distinction between things that grow us as people and things that grow us as a nation. Right? There are two redemptions that we're talking about here. There's redemption, there's the mayim that feeds us as an individual, and that's why it's called sameh l'chula mayim. Any individual who is thirsty, go to water. And then it is l'chu shivru l'chu shivru v'lo kasef, go by without bread. Becomes already almost like a plural conversation. What's going on here as well? For him, he understands, and that's also later on as well, to all of these different pieces. So what's he saying over here? What he's suggesting is that this is the national building of the Jewish people, right? We need to do things and we need to build ourselves up from a spiritual perspective as individuals. And there's also things that need to build us up as communities, as the nation of the Jewish people. And that also can't be overlooked. And that's very appropriate for the Malbim. The Malbim very much saw every line in the Torah as unique. We've used the term a lot in the past, omni-significant, that every word's unique. So when we have different similes and metaphors that are presented together, the Malbim is going to tell you each of them actually add an extra stage here. There's the stage of individual development, individual redemption, individual seeking of Torah and its pervasive impact on our lives. And then there's the national realm as well, where that has the impact as well. There's a little question as well. What is this referring to? Is this the time of Chizkiyahu, right? This is a chance for redemption, or is this a future day, right? We've seen pretty much the Radak says it explicitly. All of this is the end of days, right? And this is about the non-Jews who will recognize that God is the true God and Torah is the right way. Or you'll have other people who say, no, this is the end of days, but it's referring to the Jewish people during time of redemption. And you have people who suggest that he's speaking to the people right now. You can be redeemed. Do these things, and things will still get better. And ultimately, unfortunately, that doesn't happen. That doesn't occur. Just see what else. There's one other point we might get into. Hold on, I'm just going to pull up Rashi over here. Nechama Leibowitz has a beautiful piece here as well, but we'll have to save it for a different year. There's a little question about the end here. What's it referring to, right? Listen to your ear and listen to what I have to say. This is what I wanted to remember. I want to make another point. What's it referring to in terms of time period? Is this physical redemption or spiritual redemption? Says the Radak, this is Olam Haba. All of this is the world to come, right? Verse number 3, Hatu aznechem, listen, ulechu elai, and come to me, shimu utzchi nafshechem, and your souls will be revitalized, right? That in the world to come, says the Radak. verse number 2. Ichlu tov, eat good. Tov there, he says, is the Torah. How do we know it's Torah? Ki lekach tov natati lachem. I gave you a good lesson, a good precept. That's the Torah. Torah tialta azovu. So he says it's based on that. And what does this mean? That your souls will be revitalized? The olam haba, in the world to come. Right? And this becomes actually a fundamental, broader conversation. Right? We say in Shema, if you keep the Torah, God will rain down on you rain, and you'll get crops and produce. That's not always the case. There's a big debate here about when we get these promises in the Torah, does that mean we'll actually get physical promise in this world or in the next world? And there's an important Talmudic dictum, schar v'hai alma leka, that reward in this world is not. Meaning we don't get rewarded for our good deeds. The world of reward and punishment is the world to come, right? So says the Radak, you're talking about future good that you're going to enjoy, must be the world to come. All of this is predicated in the world to come. Your souls will be revived. The world to come, all this is the world to come. Others, the Malbim, the Barbanel, seemingly the simple explanation of Rashi, that this is the redemption. We're talking about redemption. We're talking about this world. Tzchina means your soul will be revived, that there won't be enemies who are attacking you, that your checkpoints and border crossings and metal detectors will be things to adorn with jewels and gems, that you won't need to use them anymore. And then your spirit will be revitalized because you won't have to be worried about it. And I can see that today. That's a beautiful image, right? That would make my soul relax, right? If we didn't, imagine if all the cameras in the shore we could hang decorations off of, we didn't need them for security, right? Right? But that's the world, and that could be the Radak thinks is the world to come. We'll stop here. We've seen a number of different interpretations of this end part, whether it's the connection to Torah. Some understand it's pshuto kemashmo, very simple. Eat, drink, you're starving. In the past, you've been, forgotten and forsaken. It doesn't just mean Torah. It means it on a literal level also. We've seen that Torah was compared to 4 substances: water, milk, wine, and bread. We talked about some of the reasons why it was connected to bread and the different levels that maybe the liquids hide here as well. We talked about sort of the contrast to the low kesef. Doesn't mean it's free. It means it's free. It doesn't mean it's not without work, right? Torah and personal development requires work. There's no such thing as a free lunch, right? And that's part of this as well. And this sort of contrast between Torah and the wisdom of Torah and other wisdoms. Some who will say that other wisdoms are totally for naught. Well, others will tell you they're good. There are things, there's wisdom in the world, but without Torah as the synthesizer and the unifier, you're left out, you're left unsatisfied. No wisdom can answer all the questions. So we'll stop here. I wish you all a wonderful, wonderful day, and a good Shabbos. Yeah, Ron.
Thank you.
Interesting difference in translations. The Art Scroll makes, at the very beginning, in chapter 54, afflicted and storm-tossed, unconsoled one, behold, I shall lay your floor stones upon pearls, and make your foundation of sapphires, your sun windows of rubies, your gates of garnets, and your entire boundary of precious stones. And then it goes on, all your children will be students of Hashem. The Hirsch translation makes it conditional. Were I to pave the cobbles with emeralds and lay the foundations with sapphires, and were I to set the windows in agates and gates and rubies and the whole realm of precious stones, it's conditional. He doesn't go on to say what it's conditional on. It was just two different. One saying that.
And how does he read chapter verse 13 then?
Pardon?
How is he reading verse 13?
Yes. Okay.
Is it also conditional?
Yes. If all thy children are disciples of God, then great will be the harmony of thy children. So the first part is conditional.
Hmm.
And then what? And then, so all the
Then the second
stones-
part of sentence 13 is, then great will be the harmony of thy children.
So first of all, he's definitely leaning into the interpretation I gave that all of those precious stones is really a metaphor for the children, right?
Mhm.
The sapphires represent this one, and the rubies represent that one, and the borders, the boundaries. I gave all these metaphors of these boundaries and these borders between the Jewish community, the Jewish nation, and their enemies. But but it could be also between the Jewish nation and its brothers, right? There was a border between the North and the South kingdom, right? So it could be if you break down all of those boundaries and you adorn them with the sapphires and the gems and the rubies that represent all the different unique Jews, and Hashem, all of your children will be students, disciples of God, not fighting with each other, then Rav Shalom Banayach, then there'll be great harmony for you. Right. And that's the vision. The redemption vision isn't just that there's harmony and that we're still fighting the same battles, right? The redemption is that we found a way to reconcile, right? There's the redemption internally and there's the redemption externally. So that I love that. That's the Hertz or the Hirsch?
That's the Hirsch.
That's beautiful.
Shimshon Raphael Hirsch.
It makes for sense a little bit based on the time period where he is. Right, that is that sort of conditional, the conditional piece. I had a Rabbi Herschel Schachter, who's one of the major halachic poskim of America. So I remember him. He's fond of saying, we say Shalom Rav, right? We have in davening, you have two options: Sim Shalom or Shalom Rav. So he says the role of the rabbi is to bring peace. It's either Sim Shalom, either bring peace, or Shalom Rav, goodbye, Rabbi. Meaning leave. Right? He tells that to all of his students, right? Either you should be an agent of peace, but if you become an agent of machlokas, and it's all encompassing, Shalom Rav.
Oh, shalom. Wow. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
We'll speak to everyone later. Have a great day.
Have a good day
You
too.
too, and Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat